For the most part, Caitlin Clark, the top player for the Indiana Fever, has been fortunate enough to avoid significant injuries this season. However, the all-time NCAA scoring leader has experienced a great deal of heavy contact in her first season in the Women's National Basketball Association WNBA, and that did not change when she was struck with a hit against the Las Vegas Aces on Wednesday night. Final blow of the season, Clark was in discomfort when Young shot her in the jaw when she was leaping for a rebound. Young did not see Clark approaching her and accidentally smacked her. Fortunately for all of us, Caitlin is resilient, but the question comes as to whether or not the referees are doing enough to safeguard the WNBA players on the field. Her face when jumping for the board, the officials ruled it a common foul. The Aces won 86-75, and superstar Aja Wilson became the all-time single-season scoring leader in the Washington National Basketball Association. The Fever have defeated every club in the league with the exception of Las Vegas this season, and they will have another opportunity to do so at home later on. Today, there is one thing that is certain: the Fever are still not at the level of the Aces. Despite the fact that the Fever have made a comeback this season, led by Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, and most recently Lexi Hull, they have struggled to match the experience and physicality of the Aces. This past Wednesday, Clark gave evidence of her own mortality. The officiating, on the other hand, was controversial, with supporters accusing the officials of favoring Las Vegas. The most controversial play was Clark's offensive foul on Las Vegas guard Chelsea Gray, which wrecked Indiana's attempt to make a comeback. Clark scored 16 points on 6 of 22 shooting, including 1 of 10 from deep. Clark was reportedly furious, and her teammates had to restrain her in order to prevent a technical foul from being called. Meanwhile, Wilson set a new record by scoring 27 points and grabbing 12 rebounds. Both of these accomplishments were accomplished by Wilson. The future Hall of Famer continues to dominate the competition, and her experience has enhanced her ability to perform at a higher level. In order for Indiana to have a successful run in the playoffs this season, it will be necessary for the team to increase its deep shooting percentage in order to win today's rematch. The team shot 26.9%, which is far lower than Las Vegas's 45.5%. It was evident that Caitlin Clark, the Indian Fever guard, expressed her exhaustion on the platform after the game against the Las Vegas Aces on Wednesday night. She indicated that she was exhausted. When Clark took the most shots she has tried this season, she went 1 for 10 from the field, and she went 6 for 22 from the field. Despite the fact that she has the lowest percent in any game she has played so far, she is still the Rookie of the Year. This year had a horrible night, and she is hoping that she will recover swiftly so that she may shine once more tonight. It is going to happen since it is basketball. In a later statement, Clark stated, "Overall, I didn't feel like I played poorly. I felt that as a group, we really struggled to make shots that we had been making really since the beginning of the second half. I subbed myself out right there in the first quarter with a little under 7 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter and the Fever trailing by 6 points. They are going to be physical with me, which can sort of wear you down throughout the process of the game. I subbed myself out right there." Clark engaged in a struggle with Chelsea Gray, a player for AC. When Clark started driving toward the basket and then cutting back, Gray was not totally convinced. As a result, Clark drove once more, this time banging into Gray in the paint, probably to elicit the N1 call. Gray dropped to the ground, and the refs labeled it an aggressive foul. Clark couldn't believe it, and he loaded the ball. Teammate Tammy Bentley walked over to make sure that the rookie did not suffer her 6th technical foul of the season while maintaining her distance. In the manner of a soccer player, she was going to throw the ball well behind her neck, but she did not launch it and instead allowed the ball to rest around her waist. As she raised her arms, Clark stared at her as if to say, "That is too bad." During the second quarter, Clark shook her head and smiled as she was called for an offensive foul. In all honesty, all of the defenders are pretty good. When Caitlin Clark was asked about Las Vegas, she made the following observation: "The offensive fouls are definitely surprising at times. I feel like I do get held and get quite a bit of contact throughout the games. It appears that they perceive something different from what it actually is. There is going to be a lot of physical activity in Las Vegas. They are going to do it again. It was successful, but I should anticipate that." The Heat and the Aces each scored 43 points during the other sections of the game, which was at this point during the first and third quarters brought together. Vegas was able to outscore. 4-3-3-2 for Indiana. This is due in part to the fact that Fever starters Lexi Hull and Aaliyah Boston were forced to sit out the majority of the second and fourth quarters owing to foul problems. The bench did not perform particularly poorly, but unorthodox rotations harmed the offensive since they were used. During the Olympic break, the 83 Fever have relied heavily on their starters for offensive productivity. This isn't always a bad thing, but it can be extremely dangerous on nights when, for example, Caitlin Clark shoots less than 30% from the floor and Boston struggles offensively, while A.A. Wilson, the MVP favorite, returns from his absence. Despite suffering an injury, he managed to score 27 points and grab 12 rebounds. In addition, the Aces bench outscored the Fever by a score of 30-11. We are attempting to make those modifications, and the head coach of the Fever, Christy Side, stated that what is difficult is that this is very similar to how we have been playing these guys. They've been playing those kinds of minutes that you can't modify, Caitlin Kelsey has been saying. To a great extent, when things have been progressing in a particular direction today, Caitlin Clark and the Fever played a rematch against the Las Vegas Aces in their home stadium. The good news is that the Fever did not lose to the Aces, who are the fourth best team in the league. The experience might have been far more disheartening in many ways, but the Fever were able to avoid being defeated by the Aces. The Aces frequently kept a 7-point advantage over the end points, and the Fever remained within striking distance before the game sides on Wednesday night. Clark added that the Fever are approaching this series as if it were a mock playoff, and the fact that Indiana is hosting Las Vegas once again tonight is the reason why the series is called the striking distance. Within the next 11 days, the first round of the playoffs will begin, and it will be a best-of-3 series. The Aces and the Minnesota Connections, both of which have players who have been named MVP, have made statements by valiantly snatching victories from the Fever at Gamebridge. Friday may be deemed a potential elimination. Fieldhouse, the loss on Wednesday, was sloppy, negating Indiana's advantage of a sellout crowd at home. There is another intriguing obstacle as to how the Fever can treat the A's back-to-back playoff appearances in 3 days when all 5 of their starters, including 8-year veteran Kelsey Mitchell, have never made it to the postseason. The postseason, with the knowledge that it is the series with the Vegas faces, it doesn't get any better than that from the point of view of seeing where you are. We put ourselves in a position to go back to tape and see what we can improve upon as a leader, according to Mitchell, and we gave ourselves a sense of where we stand in comparison to the team that is currently in the championship. Job to ensure that we have confidence. We have to have that going into Friday. Indiana gets another shot. And as both sides pointed out, Thursday was about resting up after an overtime victory just a few days ago on Sunday, as well as making adjustments on the court to even the series. But one more time, they have to go head-to-head with the other team. A.A. Wilson, who was nominated for the Most Valuable Player Award, and A'ja Wilson, who was the one who made history on Wednesday night, became the all-time leader in total points scored in a single season in the history of the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, during the Aces' victory over the Indiana Fever. Despite the attention that was focused on Wilson's scoring, she continued to perform well on both scoring and defense. Courts, at the conclusion of the third quarter of the year on the fast break, Wilson showed why she is a strong candidate for the WNBA Defensive Player of the Year award for the third year in a row by successfully blocking a layup attempt made by Caitlin Clark. A social media frenzy among Aces was ignited as a result of Wilson's decision to reject the youthful Fever guard. And league fans alike consider the MVP discussion to have been resolved. One fan said on X.A. Wilson that she was so majestic in person. Another fan added that another person was highly happy about the highlight. They said that you don't deserve the magnificence that is A.I. Wilson. Wilson ended her record-breaking performance. Score of 27 points at night, she had 12 rebounds, 3 blocks, and 2 steals, which strengthened her case for Most Valuable Player and Defensive Player of the Year. The Aces star dominated a game that featured some of the best players in the Washington National Basketball Association, such as Clark. Young Kelsey Plum played by Jackie in addition. The pressure is being increased by Chelsea Gray and Aaliyah Boston. It is Wilson. Applied on the offensive end put Boston into foul trouble, and Indiana star big player fouled out late in the fourth quarter. The Aces put on a defensive performance against one of the league's hottest and most dynamic units as they struggled to create any continuous flow in the half court. The Fever shot was less than a three-pointer. 40% from the field and were only 7 for 26 from three-point range. In addition, the Aces allowed the Fever to score only 6 points in transition, which has been one of their most valuable assets during their recent hot streak. With Wilson at the helm of their defense, the Aces are able to shut down almost anyone, so it will be necessary for them to do so. It will be fascinating to see how the game plays out tonight. Will it be another battle that is waged with a lot of effort, or will we see the Fever getting more into their own game this time? What do you think? Let me know your opinions in the comments section below.